When people hear the phrase literacy support, they often imagine worksheets, drills, or doing more of the thing that the child already finds difficult. But good literacy support doesn't look like that. In reality, effective literacy support is structured, predictable, and carefully balanced, with time for teaching, practice, reassurance, and success. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through how I structure a typical one-to-one literacy session. I'll explain what each part of the session is, how we do it, and, most importantly, why it's there. This isn't about a specific program or method. It's about what good support generally includes when it's working well. So if you find this kind of practical, evidence-informed content useful, you can like the video or subscribe. Now, let's take a look. I usually start each session with some alphabet work. So this begins with alphabet sequencing, so building the alphabet arc, where we practice putting the letters in order. Once that's secure, I move on to putting words into alphabetical order, starting with simple examples, so each word would start with a different first letter, and gradually increasing the complexity to the first two letters being the same. Later on, this links directly into dictionary work, where learners use the alphabetic knowledge that they've built to find words independently. Alphabet work seems very basic, but it plays an important role in literacy. Knowing the alphabet in order supports spelling, dictionary skills, and efficient writing and reading. So starting sessions this way also helps learners to settle in. They're building confidence and they're switching their brains into learning mode before we move on to more challenging tasks. The next part of the session focuses on memory. This is usually done through games rather than formal tasks. We might play memory games like Pelmanism, where learners find matching pairs, or pattern recall activities using colours, shapes, or counters. Sometimes we use verbal memory games such as the shopping list game, where items have to be remembered and repeated in order. These activities are carefully chosen. Literacy relies on working memory, so holding sounds, letters, and word patterns in the mind long enough to read or spell accurately. So by practicing memory in a low-pressure, playful way, we strengthen the underlying skills needed for reading and spelling without overwhelming the learner. After memory games, we do a quick recap of previous learning. This is a short, fast-paced review of content we've already covered in earlier sessions. It might involve revisiting sounds or spelling patterns or reading skills, often through quick-fire questions or short activities. Recapping in this way helps strengthen memory and reinforce learning over time. It also gives learners an immediate sense of success. They're reminded of what they already know before new learning is introduced. This helps build confidence and makes progress feel visible rather than starting each session from scratch. So this is the point in the session where new learning is introduced. Rather than starting with a rule or explanation, we usually begin by exploring examples together and noticing patterns. I might ask questions like, "What do you notice?" or "What's the same about these words?" and we work it out step by step. This approach helps learners actively engage with new learning rather than just being told information to remember. Discovery learning supports deeper understanding and helps learners make sense of how reading and spelling work, instead of relying on guesswork or memorization. It also makes learning feel collaborative and achievable, which is especially important for learners who have experienced repeated difficulty. Once patterns have been noticed and explored, this is where the explicit teaching comes in. At this stage, I clearly explain the rule, pattern, or concept we've been working towards. This might involve naming the rule, giving a simple explanation, and showing a few clear examples. Explicit teaching is important because it removes uncertainty. Learners don't have to guess what's expected or try to work it out on their own later. They're given something solid to rely on. Teaching in this way helps make learning predictable and reduces anxiety, especially for learners who have previously found literacy confusing or inconsistent. After teaching, we create a reading and spelling card together. These aren't pre-made cards, they're built during the session based on the sound, pattern or rule we've been learning. For example, if we are working on the long A vowel sound, we'll make a card for that sound. On the back, we include a simple explanation, a because, or reminder, that shows when and why each spelling pattern is used. This might explain when we use AI or AY or another long A sound. Creating the cards together helps learners actively process the information rather than just being given it. The cards become a personalized reference that can be used for reading, spelling, and revision in future sessions. This supports both understanding and memory and gives learners something concrete to rely on when they're unsure. Handwriting is also included as part of literacy support. This isn't about neatness for its own sake, it's about reducing the effort needed to write. We work on letter formation and, where appropriate, cursive joins in a supported and structured way. When handwriting is automatic, learners don't have to think as hard about how to form letters, which frees up mental space for spelling and sentence content. For learners who struggle with literacy, handwriting difficulties can add an extra layer of cognitive load. So by addressing handwriting alongside reading and spelling, this helps make writing feel more manageable and less overwhelming. So this is the point in the session where reading is directly linked to what we've been focusing on. The reading material is carefully chosen so that it includes the sound, pattern, or rule we've been working on, alongside opportunities to revisit earlier learning. This allows learners to apply new skills in context while also consolidating what they already know. Because the reading is structured and matched to the learner's current level, there is less need for guessing and less risk of overload, and this helps reading feel achievable and purposeful rather than something that is unpredictable or stressful. Next, I include a short written exercise linked directly to what we've been learning in the session. This might be a simple worksheet focused on the sound or pattern we've been working on, or a short dictation exercise where words or sentences are read aloud and written down. The purpose of this isn't to test the learner, it's to apply learning in a supported way. Writing helps consolidate reading and spelling skills and shows how they transfer into written work. Because the task is closely matched to the session focus, learners can practice successfully without feeling overwhelmed. Spelling is also practiced in a structured way. Rather than learning spelling lists in isolation, spelling is linked directly to the sounds, patterns, or rules we've been working on in the session. Learners are encouraged to think about why a word is spelled a certain way, not just try to remember it. This helps spelling become logical rather than something that feels random or impossible. Structured spelling supports reading as well as writing, because learners start to recognize patterns across words instead of treating each word as completely new. Before the session ends, we always include a quick review. This might be an oral recall of what we've been learning, or a rapid run-through of the reading and spelling cards we've created together. The review is short and focused. It's about reinforcing key ideas, not reteaching. Ending the session this way helps strengthen memory and gives learners a clear sense of what they've learned. It also ensures the session finishes on success rather than rushing straight to the end. We usually finish the session with a consolidation game linked to what we've been learning that day. The game is chosen so it revisits the sound, pattern, or rule from the session in a fun, low-pressure way. This might involve reading, spelling, matching, or recalling words, but always with support. Ending with a game helps consolidate learning, reinforce success, and leaves learners feeling positive about what they've achieved. It also helps shift the focus away from effort and difficulty and towards confidence and engagement. I usually deliver this structure in one 1-hour session per week, but I know that isn't always realistic in schools. Many settings work with shorter, more frequent sessions, and that's absolutely fine. The key thing to understand is that this isn't about cramming everything into one block. It's about consistency, repetition, and clear focus. So if you have 3 20-minute sessions a week, you might structure your sessions like this. In session 1, focus on new learning, alphabet work, and introducing the target sound or pattern. In session 2, you could focus on memory, recap, reading and spelling cards, and the supported reading. And then session 3 focuses on consolidation. Reading, writing application, the review, and a game. If you have 4 15-minute sessions, you can spread the learning even more gently. So on day 1, you would focus on the new sound. Day 2 revisits it through memory and reading. Day 3, you're applying that sound in writing or dictation. And day 4, you're consolidating and reviewing what you've been covering. And then if you have 2 30-minute sessions, one session can introduce and practice new learning, and the second session is consolidation, reading, writing, and confidence building. The structure stays the same. What changes is how it's spread across the week. Short, frequent sessions often work just as well, if not better, than one long session, especially for learners with working memory or attention difficulties. What matters most is that learning is revisited, supported, and reinforced over time. Good literacy support isn't about doing more work. It's about doing the right work in the right order at the right pace. Sessions should feel structured, predictable, and supportive, while still allowing learners to make progress. Whether that support happens in one longer session or is spread across the week in shorter blocks, the principles stay the same. If you'd like to explore the resources and approaches that follow this structure, you can find more on my website. The link is in the description below. And if you find this kind of practical, evidence-informed guidance useful, you can like the video or subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and remember, difference does not mean deficit.